You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. Today we have a show that I think you're going to go away from feeling better, if not outright happy. Well, I don't want to shock you or anything, but it has had that effect on me, and is continuing to have that effect on me. So that's a good thing. I mean, for one point, our guest for the conversation this week is Maria Teresa Kumar, who you may know from her frequent appearances as a contributor on MSNBC. She's incredibly smart. She's also the president and CEO of Voto Latino. And her insights into the demographics of this country and the future of our elections and democracy, in fact, is very heartening. And, of course, there's also Inside the Headlines, and there's also Fighting Words at the end of the program, which I think are somewhat happy-making, too. So, prepare to that unfamiliar feeling of feeling better about life, because this show may do it for you. I can't vouch for next week. It may depress you all over again. But, listen, let's take it where we can. So, we can't do any of that, however, until we've gone inside the headlines. Since this is, after all, Women's Media Center Live, it must be said that in the media world this past week and a half, there have been some seismic changes. The first took place during the ongoing battles waged defensively by Fox News Corp against the various companies suing them because of their epidemic spread of lies about the election, including slander of Dominion voting machines and the manufacturers of other such electoral equipment. Now, Fox did, to be sure, have to pay out a record in American jurisprudence in damages, $787.5 million. Although the Dominion plaintiffs still settled for too little in the minds of many who thought they should have held out on principle. Be that as it may, Fox still has many more lawsuits to go, which definitely is a cheerful thought. The settlement, plus ongoing lawsuits, were doubtless among the reasons that the Murdochs, who you will remember, own Fox, Rudolph and his children. They own Fox, they own the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, and other media. Well, they decided to show the door to Tucker Carlson, their primetime, big-name commentator known for spewing hatred, racist and sexist comments, election denial, and other such goodies. Paid a reported $20 million a year by Fox, Carlson still has a number of years left on his contract, but poof, they got rid of him. While Fox has yet to confirm the reason for his departure, it's been reported that a combination of his contemptuous, derogatory remarks about senior News Corps executives, one woman in particular, and a recent discrimination lawsuit filed against him were to blame. Fox is vigorously fighting the lawsuit filed by Abby Grossberg, a former booking producer who alleges misogyny, sexism, and bullying both from Carlson's staff and while working on the show of Maria Bartoloma. Good God, what an unpleasant group of people. Meanwhile, and because Maria Teresa Kumar, the president and CEO of Voto Latino, is our guest this week, I want to highlight a few background facts about the Latinx community before we get into the conversation. These statistics and others are available, I'm proud to say, for free by going to womensmediacenter.com/reports and checking out our website for our many superb search studies. on gender, on race representation, on lots of good things. So, for example, here is one, the WMC report on gender and race representation on 5 big Sunday shows. These are guests across all 5 shows, and the dates were January 1st to December 31st, 2020, which are the latest for which you can get seasoned figures. So, in terms of gender and race or ethnicity, 73% on the 5 big Sunday shows were white, of which 53% were men and 20% women. 16% were black or African American, of which 8% were men and 9% were women. That's interesting because there's 1 point more for women than for men. They may be perceived as being less threatening. I do say that ironically. Also, number 4 is Latinx community, and that's 4%. Only 4% representation on the Sunday talk shows. 2% men and 2% women, followed by 3% Asian American, 2% men and 1% women, and 29% multiracial, 1% men and 1% women. And then it goes even further down with Middle Eastern at 2% and women at 0.6%, and Native American or Indigenous at 1%. And there are no women showing up there at all either. It's 0.06%. So the telling statistic here for our purposes today is 4% of Latinx men and women are representing their entire community on the major talk shows on Sunday, major news shows that define the week. And then let's skip sideways into entertainment, because we all know how much Hollywood influences thought and behavior and trends in the United States, and in the world for that matter. So according to recent studies, Hispanics, or the Latinx community as we prefer to say, account for 24% of all box office ticket sales, and only 18% of the population. But they comprise just 5.8% of major characters in films. That's quite a spread. I'm thinking boycott. What are you thinking? A comprehensive study published by University of Southern California's Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism confirms that people of color are being systematically left out of important industries' positions, from executive suites to writers' rooms. And one of their main conclusions is that the film industry still functions as a straight white boys' club. This is why the buttons began to read Oscars So White for the last couple of years, and of late are reading also Oscars So Male, given the Directors' Awards and the Genderless Awards. The same study also spotlighted the difficulties for women in particular. Latinas appeared in film and television roles in sexualized attire 39.5% of the time, more than any other racial or ethnic group. That's shocking. Even the casual film or television viewer can see the stereotypes many Latina actresses are forced to portray, often relegated to sex objects, service workers, or even a combination of the two. But here's the good news. This vast and growing constituency, the largest in this country, fastest growing, is changing all our demographics, and for the good. The average Latino is 11 years old, and the future is theirs. So, I don't know about you, but I am going to celebrate by beginning to polish up my Spanish, by God. We need to take a short break here, but we will be back directly with Maria Teresa Kumar. So don't go away. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Maria Teresa Kumar is a Colombian-American political rights activist, and she's president and CEO of the Latinx political organization, Voto Latino. She was named by Elle magazine in 2013 as one of the 10 most influential women in Washington, D.C., and by Hispanic Business in 2017 as one of the 100 most influential Latinos in America. She was born in Bogota, Colombia in 1974, but grew up in Sonoma, California. She attended the University of California, where she received her BA in International Relations. She obtained a master's degree in public policy from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. She began her career as a legislative aide to Democratic Congressman Vic Fazio, and it was there that she recognized the importance of technology in improving the gap in equity and equality in Latino lives. She began working with the Latino advocacy group Voto Latino in 2004. And in the beginning, Voto Latino's mission was to increase voter registration among the Latinx community in the U.S. But later, Voto Latino partnered with the U.S. Census Bureau to increase participation in the 2010 U.S. Census. To spread the word, Voto Latino and MTV's Latino channel, TR3S, aired public service announcements, created a hashtag on Twitter, and established a nationwide network of bloggers. Kumar and her team also launched the Be Counted campaign, which included a bilingual mobile phone app which enabled Latinos to fill out the 2010 census on their phones. And the organization is also currently assisting Latinos in navigating the health exchanges associated with the Affordable Care Act. Under Maria Teresa's direction, Voto Latino played a primary role in registering over 500,000 new Latino voters. In June 2018, the organization announced that it has set a new goal of registering 1 million voters by 2020, and is planning to spend $7 million on the project. She also serves on the national boards of Planned Parenthood, Emily's List, and the Latino Leaders Network. I give you with great pleasure, because she's also a good friend, Maria Teresa Kumar. Maria Teresa, welcome back to Women's Media Center Live.
Robin, it's a delight to join you again. Thanks for having me.
Oh, listen, it's been too long. I have so many things I want to ask you. Well, I think I'm going to start, because of all of your stellar work with Voto Latino, about the much vaunted rumor that the Latinx vote was going to be extremely conservative, and we should all brace ourselves for that. I want to find out, one, was it, is it? And two, was it ever disaggregated by gender and by age, or are they talking only to Hispanic men? So, take it away.
No, absolutely. First of all, it's a delight to have this conversation when after the midterm elections, I can kind of, boast, I told you so.
You'd think so, yep.
So, it was the biggest, just like the Republicans were trying to scare everybody into believing that there was a red wave. They got ahead of the polling. They really skewed the polling and the narrative, right? And I will tell you, I would be on the ground and I would tell our supporters, I don't see a red wave because our polling doesn't show it. because we poll everybody, right? Latinos, but moderates, independents, because we're always trying to figure out how do we win. I said, and not only that, but our polling doesn't show it, but neither do the people that I talk to on the ground. Like, people are tired and they believe in our democracy, regardless of political stripes disproportionately. And the same thing happened with Latino vote. When people started telling me that Latinos all of a sudden swung from, supporting Biden, between young Latinos supporting him 70%, and, their parents supporting 70% among young Latinos and 60% among older Latinos. I said, there's no way that people in 2 years are going to switch parties so quickly, right? That's impossible. That's just absolute nonsense. And I would share that, but the media had so much socialized this idea based on really pretty defunct data. But now I ask them like, well, look at Virginia Congresswoman Abigail, who people thought was in a tight race. She won against a MAGA Latina Republican. She won the Latino vote, and that's why she's in Congress, right?
Yeah.
Mark Kelly, 70% of Latinos in Arizona voted for Mark Kelly, compared to 40% white people.
God damn.
Right? And these are, like, when you look at districts, like where you look at where heavily Latino populations are, and the same thing in Nevada. We have a Senate because of Arizona and Nevada. And I just have, when the results came out, Robin, I have to tell you, like, I basically put folks on blast. I said, where's the headline that Latinos delivered the Senate in Arizona because of Arizona and Nevada? There was no headline.
Exactly.
It was because of that.
Well, then we've got to do something better to get the word out about this, because even though it's a done deal now with the midterms behind us, they are still repeating the myth. I mean, they are still saying, "Oh, well, the Latino vote. Oh, that's very conservative." And I will now raise my little banner very high and wave it. But we've got to. Have you to think of doing an op-ed about this, of something for the New York Times?
I will tell you, I have written and we have submitted, and no one's interested because it goes against their counter narrative. It's so fun. I mean, I work in the media, and it's been so hard to basically. And what I realized, it gets to a point that the majority of white Americans actually believe that Latinos are very conservative because we're Catholic. And we are absolutely Catholic. But you know what, Robin? We are Pope Francis Catholic. We are social justice Catholic.
Yeah.
And that is very different than Pope Benedict Catholic.
Oh.
And when people realize, right? Like, very different. And so when we start talking about,
and also he's a Latino, I might add. He's Argentinian.
Right. Well, he's Argentinian, but he's always led with science. So he believes in climate change.
Yeah.
He believes in you should not judge an abortion.
I know.
He believes. I mean, so it goes all down the gamut. I mean, he's a Jesuit, and so when folks start talking about Latinos' proclivities, I said you can't project your biases on what you think you are.
That's right.
What you think a Catholic is versus what a Latino Catholic actually is.
Yeah.
And even when we look at, polling among women when it comes to abortion, across the board between men and women, abortion going into the midterms was the second top issue.
In the Latino community.
In the Latino community, even among men in key battleground states. Because they recognize that their daughters, they recognize that their family, that these are private decisions that a woman has with her doctor.
Well, it makes perfect sense. It's just not getting out there. This is absolutely maddening. This is like the persistence of a rumor against all odds. I mean, it needs a real...
Well, and it's effective. Because what happens is that the Republicans sit back and they don't invest in the Latino community, and then progressive Democratic folks that should know better say, "Oh shoot, I read that headline, it must be true," even though we have the data and we have like the results, like not we, but like the progressive movement.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have the results, but it's because we have to be smarter than that. Like, there was no red wave that materialized, in large part because there was no Latino red wave that materialized, right?
Yeah,
that just didn't exist.
Of course. So, that was the red wave they were depending on leading it, you see.
Yes, exactly. And that didn't happen because it wasn't true. And so, but we have so much opportunity, Robin. I will share with you, of the people that are eligible to vote, we're expecting 12 million more young voters to come out of age by the next presidential election.
Ooh.
Of those, 4 million of them are young Latinos. And that's opportunity.
Oh.
Because those young people live in a place like Texas and Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, they're the places where even by registering 20, even 10 to 20% of them, you cement the state for future progressive movements.
Of course.
And that's exciting. but that's why the right is peddling lies, because they see the same demographics and say, oh shoot, we don't want anybody investing in them.
Yeah.
Because Latinos, especially young Latinos, they are part of their generation.
Yeah.
They believe in climate change. They believe that there should be a gun control. They believe that women should have agency and freedom over their bodies. They believe in LGBTQ issues. I don't need to convince them. I just need to convince them that the system works for them.
And you get out the vote.
Yeah, and we get out the vote.
God.
And we do it at scale. Like, it's fun. When you and I first started talking. No, go ahead, tell me.
I've often thought that Texas, maybe 2 elections, maybe 3 elections, and it's going to go blue.
There's no other place for it.
That's right.
Like, just to give you an idea, so Trump won that state by 400,000 votes. In the next election, presidential, we're expecting 800,000 Latino youth to have returned 18. So double of what he won, right? Mm-hmm. And there's possibility, but you can't. And the reason that the Republicans are trying to, so we are actually, believe it or not, we actually now have a case that's going to the Supreme Court because they're trying to restrict voter registration for college students. Why? Because we were so effective in registering them in Texas. They see the writing on the walls. They certified a fair, free election, the presidential campaign election last time. But they're like, but shoot, if this trend continues, we will lose. So let's actually create friction at the voting booth and prevent them from participation.
Yeah, well, that's the game plan that they're. Oh God. What about? I know this is a crazy suggestion, but I'll throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. Can we get Eva Longoria, who has a new series on, I think, CNN, about eating wonderful Mexican food, and she's a celebrity and so forth and so on. Can we get her to? I don't know, to get on board about this or Oh
my gosh, Eva has been one of our
she's on board already. Okay.
She is. She's fabulous. I mean, she even, believe it or not, when we were trying to get out the vote for the Latino youth community, and she and I did an Instagram live, and she was, I think it was a god awful hour in Spain on her vacation, came on to talk about the importance of mobilizing young Latinos. Now she is, I have to say, I think one of the reasons why we're so effective at Voto Latino is that we have such incredible star power who believes in democracy. And we are now registering voters. You know, our biggest challenge is that it's not that we don't know where the voters are. We can register them at scale. I mean, in the 2020 presidential, when our sister organizations who do traditional voter registration on the ground, they shuttered because of the COVID pandemic. Yeah. We registered 650,000 people in 8 states.
That's incredible.
And it was exciting, but it was because of people lending, like Eva Longoria, Rosario Dawson, Wilmer Valderrama, even Selma Hayek, lending their voices to amplify the work. But what was even more exciting was that of the people we registered, 83 of them voted early. 80% of them voted early.
Oh, that's great.
And 79% of them actually cast a ballot. I mean, they actually changed the direction of this country. And that's where this is where I become testy when people were like, well, what happened to the Latino vote? I said, we helped deliver the House, the White House, and Congress. What more do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, Jesus, exactly. Oh, God. Well, speaking of which, talk to me about DeSantis. Is he pulling some? Will he? How magical is he? You know, we hear the generalized media, and Florida's becoming more and more of an anomaly. So tell me.
So DeSantis did win the Latino vote, but what folks don't analyze is that all of Florida moved closer to the Republican Party, not just the Latino vote. So they basically, if you were actually to do the margin of change, it's the same margin across demographics in Florida.
It's not just the Latino community.
No. No, it's all Floridians. More to the right.
Well, I knew it. I was
it.
born in Florida, but when I was 2 weeks old, I looked around and I said, oh, no, I don't think so. And so I moved myself and my mother to New York. Oh, no. Not going to happen.
You've always been ahead of your time.
So he's pulling general conservatives. I mean, he's or even to the right of them.
Well, and what we may not like is that of the number one reason that Latinos, even in 2020, when they voted for Trump, was because he not being able to differentiate between the two parties.
Yeah,
he gave them a relief check. DeSantis, for a lot of business owners who don't have any more that live paycheck to paycheck, he never closed their businesses. Right? These are financial decisions, and so I do think that he is overstretching his hand because he most recently introduced very draconian anti-immigrant policy, similar to Proposition 187 in California, and similar to what Jan Brewer espoused in Florida, which basically says that if you present yourself at an emergency room, they can ask for your papers.
Oh,
if you are
God.
transporting someone, I mean, it gets worse. If you're transporting someone, so imagine you're an Uber driver or you're a loved one transporting your mom to the doctor. You are now trafficking in human trafficking, and you can get fined and put in jail. I mean, it's so extreme.
So cruel.
And this is where, it's cruel, but it's also where DeSantis doesn't realize that the reason California became permanently blue, the reason California went blue, the reason Arizona is going blue, the reason Nevada is going blue, is because these fools tried to do the exact same thing where they criminalized someone's skin color and tried to perpetuate anti-immigrant behavior.
Do they not see the demographics of this country and how it's changing? I guess not. I guess they've got their heads in the sand. Yeah.
No. Well, they know enough to want to prevent our vote, right? They want us to work. They want us to be part of the labor force, but they don't want us enfranchised.
All right. Exactly. They don't. Well, they want you to have all the responsibility and none of the power. So talk a little bit about. So DeSantis is not. He's not that much of a national threat, you think, or depending.
I mean, among the Latino community, no. But I think on the larger scale community, yes.
Yeah,
right? I think that he does peddle a demagoguery that is dangerous to democratic American values.
Yeah,
right. That is a challenge.
All right, moving right along in this happy list to we'll get to happy things, I swear, to the southern border and U.S. policy. If Maria Teresa Kumar, with all of her smarts, which are considerable, were to write us a border policy, which would actually make sense and have some heart in it, and care for babies and for mothers and for most of the people who are, oh God, don't get me started. What kind of thing would it look like? And how can we pressure for it? Because Biden seems trapped in some of the same Trumpian proposals. Not as much, but somewhat.
I think that we have to have a level conversation with our American friends, right? Like with our fellow citizens.
Yeah.
By the time we start talking about a broken border, it is an absolutely broken system when we have mothers and babies seeking refuge and sleeping in tents alongside the U.S.-Mexico border.
Of course.
That's a failed policy. That's not a policy at all, right?
Nor are we supplying enough support for the countries they're having to leave.
That's where I was going to go. That's where exactly. So what we have not realized is that since probably the last time there was a real strategic investment. Now, the vice president, I have to give her credit. She has now gone to the Central Triangle. She has garnered close to $4 billion, over $4 billion, and made strategic investments in the Northern Triangle in ways that we need it.
This also, I might add, is not getting the publicity that it should be getting. She's
of course because we have
disappearing
a strong woman leading it.
Yeah, they're disappearing her.
Well,
it's like, where is she?
The media's not covering her. Yeah, the media's not covering her. I mean, Morgan, Robin, one of the things that really chaps my hide when I go around talking to folks. They're like, well, we haven't seen her. I said, well, you didn't see her for the first 2 years because who do you think was breaking the votes to make sure that we got the CHIPS Act, that we got the Inflation Reduction Act, that we got the American Rescue Plan? Who do you think was the one that had to cast those decisive votes to carry the president's agenda?
Right.
The vice president. And she is now going to the toughest regions, whether we're talking about Central America, where we're talking about Africa, and creating business partnerships because the local country governments are not there. But she needs support. And one of the best things that we can do is have to address what's happening in Central America at this time and in South America is give it love and nurture. Because you know who's paying attention to them while we're not? The Russians and the Chinese.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah.
The Russians have a full-on communications operations in Latin America, but they're also sending troops to places like Nicaragua. The Chinese are investing. They just recently invested $500 million in infrastructure. Let's not even get into what they're doing in South America. And so while we've been asleep at the wheel, trying to figure out what we're doing, while we play petty white nationalist politics, right underneath our noses, our neighbors are becoming increasingly destabilized. That will impact our ability to have not just freedom and liberty, but also commerce and globalization in the right humanitarian way.
That's right.
And so if you were to ask me what an immediate policy that we would need is we actually need to have a summit of the Americas of leadership with a will from our government that talks about a type of Marshall Plan. The idea that we recognize that the destabilization of Ukraine destabilizes democracies in a fundamental way in the Balkan region and in that part of the world. We need to have an honest conversation with the American people to say, look, what is happening right now in El Salvador, what's happening right now in Peru, in Venezuela, even in a place like Brazil, who's trying, the former president's trying to get his footing again in a positive way. That destabilization is anti-democratic. And to have a whole bunch of autocrats as our neighbors does not bode well for our own security and our own leadership. And we're not having that conversation.
That is so smart to have a Marshall Plan and to have a summit. Is it getting any attention? Is there any chance of it? How do we elevate you into get you a bullhorn? I don't know, position you outside the White House.
I think this White House inherited such a mess, and I think that they're starting to get their bearings in a way that is positive, and we're going to see more of it. But we do need to decouple. We forget that it's going to be 10 years this June, where the Gang of Eight came up with a pathway for citizenship to protect the 11 million people that are here.
Yeah,
and we no longer talk about them.
Yeah,
they're the ones that basically made sure that we fared okay during the pandemic because they were the crux of our essential workers.
Oh, I'll say.
And we don't talk about them anymore. And all we do is lead with what's at the border. I'm like, the border is an international Western Hemispheric issue that now needs to be solved multilaterally. Yeah. What is happening with the 11 million undocumented? They have 16 million American children who are coming of age who are desperately trying to figure out, how do I protect my parents? How do I protect my aunts, my grandmother? And those individuals who have not only contributed to our economy, but to the health and to the well-being of molding our children, taking care of our parents, and making sure that we could thrive, they deserve to come out of the shadows, and we need to do right by them.
Oh my God, those dreamers are the future of this country. I mean, there's no big shockaroo about that. It's extraordinary that there should be any opposition to them. It's not just the dreamers, right? We have to remember it's the essential workers, it's the farm workers. Yeah.
I mean, imagine had the farm workers decided not to pick fruit during COVID.
Yeah.
We would have starved.
That's right.
We would have starved.
That's right. Well, as it is, they constituted most of the nurses and the nurses' aides and the.
That's exactly right.
In New York
and the
City.
Teachers and.
Oh God, yeah. So I mean, I wrote a blog post a while back about how essential workers were obviously those who you could most essentially pay less and ignore and discard. And yet these were the people who kept you alive. What do you do about that? How do you handle that? How do you how does the brain conjugate that? It's extraordinary. It's just extraordinary. You listen. Yeah. Now listen. You have to get. This is your grandmother talking here. You have to get serious. Either you have to run for office, which I know makes your teeth grind immediately, because you are so damn smart. Or we have to get you the Pulitzer Prize for journalism or something. Or you have to. I know. Instead of being a guest on CNN and CNBC and MSNBC, you have to have your own show. That's just all there is to it.
That would be fun. I would enjoy it. But that's kind of you. I do have a full plate. I'm still trying to raise two good little citizens here. So we're like,
how old are they?
So my daughter is 10 and my son is 8. And I will tell you a brief story, which was very cute. During the day before Easter, I hear my daughter talking to my husband and saying, "Dad, we need more eggs." And my husband telling her, 56 are enough. I hear complete silence, pitter patter. She goes to my room, opens it, and says, "Mom, do you have a moment? I need some guidance."
And she's how old? She's 10?
10.
Oh, my God. Oh, well, if you don't run for office, she will.
She absolutely will.
I need some guidance. How precious and brilliant. No, you really are so smart. It's just wonderful to hang out with you because I always learn so much. And sometimes I learn things that I didn't know at all before. And sometimes I learn things that I thought I knew and discarded or got weaned away from, like the conservative Latino vote, which I should know better about, and I will now go and beat the hustings. And so, there's a third thing you have to do. That's right. You have to write a book.
I could use your counsel. I have a proposal. I would love to,
I'm
working on it. But I could get your counsel.
This I could help with. Okay. All right. Stay on the line when we're done talking, and we shall. All right, darling. Listen, thank you for being on Women's Media Center today. I mean, and for all the work that you continue to do. This is so heartening. I mean, I sometimes I come away from an interview feeling depressed, not because the guest isn't wonderful, but because the news is still harsh and dictators rising around the world. And Trump harmed us. I mean, no question about it. It's going to take a while to recover from this. And I think that Biden is doing the best he can, which is still not good enough. But this conversation I come away from really heartened. So bless your dear heart. And now all you have to do is write a book, run for office, win the Pulitzer Prize, and have a show on television. And then I will be content for a while until your daughter is old enough to need more guidance.
Oh, Robin, I love how you figured out my life. I'm always looking for those North Stars. So you're wonderful, and I appreciate it.
All right.
You are an Aquarius through and through.
Oh, yeah, we're Aquarian. You betcha. Okay, darling. Thank you again so much. Stay on the line, and we'll talk book. Take care.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Time for one last quick break, and then I'll be right back with some fighting words. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
It comes with the territory. Those might be fighting words. Recently, I was having a conversation with a woman, a new acquaintance, highly intelligent, a theater performer, and a feminist, who said she was finding herself furious at young people these days. They have no discipline, she mourned. They don't want to work hard. All they want to do is have fun and play and be superficial. Too bad if I sound like a cranky old lady. She was only perhaps in her late 50s or maybe early 60s. But I can't help it, she went on. I'm really angry at them. Now, since she has a grown daughter who is perpetually in graduate school and can't quite make up her mind what she's going to do, I suspected that this tirade was aimed more within her own family. But still, I need to step aside for a moment now and make a confession myself. In certain situations, like, for example, while waiting for way too long for a scheduled X-ray and already having counted every square in the patterned floor 5 times, I am suddenly told by the very young woman at the desk that the also very young technician has gone out for lunch, and perhaps I should come back in another hour or 2. Well, I admit that I have been known in such circumstances to stalk out majestically while muttering under my breath, "Damn 12-year-olds." That this is ageist and unconscionable, however satisfyingly it may strike me at the time, is all too true. In that case, in fact, I sound like a dreary grandparent saying, "You don't know how good you have it. I had to walk 6 miles to school in the snow wearing only my socks." But most of the time, I'm fairly civilized. And I do have to say that given what we've been through in this country with Trump, given his effect around the world encouraging autocrats and dictators, and given the highly imperiled state of the planet, younger generations than mine are doing quite well indeed. They tend strongly toward feminism, anti-racism, economic parity and equality, multiculturalism, and in particular, they are aware, terrifyingly aware, of global climate change. More to the point, they are organizing and doing something about all these issues and more. For this reason, but not only for this reason, are the words of Maria Teresa Kumar about Latinx youth encouraging. They too are mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. If they are all sometimes, youth I mean in general, excessive or careless, as in the blanket cry, "Defund the police," when what they really mean is do fund the police, but humanely and responsibly, well, that comes with the territory of being young. Just as creaky joints, endless comparisons about doctors, and grumbling about the young comes with the territory of growing old. But neither is a reason to overlook the good parts. Intensifying wisdom, humor, and a what-the-hell attitude attendant on aging, and the high energy, defiance, and will, and what-the-hell attitudes attendant on the young. Of course, when we're young, we forget that we will ever be old. And when we're old, we forget that we ever were young. And here's the rub. Also, frankly, we elders envy the young, whether we admit it or not, because their innocently ignorable physical reality and their can-do mental state allows them an inexhaustible reservoir from which to draw, which is damned well fortunate because it's going to dry up soon enough. I used to lecture a lot at universities and colleges all across this country and the world until about 8 or 10 years ago. And then I felt more in touch with what younger people, women in particular, were thinking, feeling, and doing. Now I zoom in, even if, in the question and answer period, it's not the same, lacking a certain immediacy and intimacy. Yet the questions are still probing. Sometimes they're desperate, often and ironically envious of my generation's activism. But they're always intelligent, those questions. The young women are livid about the Supreme Court decision on Dobbs and abortion, and so are the young men in support of them. There's far more going to each other's marches and demonstrations for women's rights, for the rights of people of color, the disabled, gays and lesbians, than there used to be, when jockeying for press attention and funding too often separated the constituencies, or even put them at each other's throats. In other words, the young have matured. Let's not forget either that young people today face overarching crises way beyond what we could have imagined. Oh, we could imagine nuclear holocaust, but we were often reduced to those ridiculous duck and cover under your school desk warnings. Today, they duck and cover under their school desks because of shooters and shooters' ability to get guns. But who in the 1940s or 50s or even 60s, except, of course, the great Rachel Carlson, could conceive of climate change threatening the planet toward extinction? Young people live with that daily, and it has deeply sobered them. Still, even in the face of possible dystopic disaster beyond our wildest fears, they remain not in denial, but optimistic and determined to make not just a difference, but to make the difference. Well, I believe that they will. I know this will take every one of us, and I still intend to do my part. But I also know that given who we are, and given who they are, and given the state of this fragile blue marble we live on, that we're in very good hands. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter, and remember to tag us at WMC Live and use the hashtag #FightingWords. And we will be on hiatus next week, but back at the old stand on May 14th. And that's our show for this week. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and now Instagram at The Robin Morgan, and you can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net and find my latest book of poems, Dark Matter, and my brand new novel, Parallax, wherever books are sold. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the Women's Media Center. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Executive producer as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer of this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us again next time on Women's Media Center Live.